In a noisy world where everyone seems to be rushing to say something, to prove a point, or to defend themselves, the one who chooses silence is often the one with the most wisdom. Remaining silent is not an act of cowardice or passiveness. In fact, it requires immense inner strength and self-control. When someone provokes you, when someone throws harsh words your way, or when you are misunderstood, the easiest reaction is to raise your voice, to retaliate, to justify yourself. But silence in those moments is far more powerful than shouting. It takes a wise person to recognize that not every situation requires a response, and that silence is often more impactful than 1,000 words. There are countless times in life when remaining silent can save relationships, preserve dignity, and protect your peace. It is a shield that protects you from unnecessary disputes and escalating arguments. Silence gives you the chance to pause, breathe, and assess the situation with clarity. When you're silent, you're not surrendering your self-worth. You're exercising emotional intelligence. You are choosing not to descend to the level of those who speak without thinking. You are refusing to let others control your emotional state. That is not weakness. That is wisdom in its purest form. Think about the many times people have spoken in anger, only to regret it moments later. Harsh words leave wounds that apologies can't always heal. A single sentence spoken in frustration can destroy years of trust and love. But silence, even if misunderstood at first, holds a mysterious power. It gives you the time to think, the space to grow, and the strength to endure. Silence is not the absence of words. It is the presence of calmness, composure, and a deep understanding that not everything needs to be explained or justified. There are moments when you know the truth, but speaking it will only cause more harm. In such situations, silence becomes your wisdom. You are not afraid of speaking. You are simply mature enough to know when speech will add value and when it will only stir chaos. This is not about bottling up your emotions or suppressing your voice forever. This is about mastering the art of timing, saying the right thing at the right moment, or saying nothing at all when that is the better choice, is what separates the wise from the impulsive. True wisdom lies in understanding that your silence cannot be misquoted. When you remain silent, you do not give anyone the weapon of your words to be used against you. You do not open doors for gossip, for misinterpretation, or for unnecessary conflict. Silence builds your character. It teaches you discipline. It allows you to observe, to learn, to connect with the deeper realities of life. When your heart is calm and your tongue is restrained, you begin to hear the whispers of truth, of guidance, of clarity. Silence is the gateway to introspection, and introspection is the doorway to personal growth. Those who rush to speak are often chasing validation. They want to be heard, to be acknowledged, to be understood. But those who are silent have already accepted that they do not need to prove themselves to others. They are content with being known by the one who truly matters. Their silence is not emptiness. It is full of trust, wisdom, and insight. It is full of knowing when to act, when to speak, and when to let go. You will notice that people who have been through real pain, real struggle, real loss, often don't speak much. They carry wisdom not on their tongues but in their silence. They understand that the deepest truths are not shouted, they are felt. Silence is a form of self-respect. When you choose to remain silent in the face of disrespect, you are telling yourself that your peace is more valuable than a temporary satisfaction of winning an argument. You are refusing to be dragged into negativity. You are protecting your mental and spiritual health. The one who is truly wise does not chase approval through loud declarations. They let their character speak. They let time reveal the truth. They trust that what is meant for them will never pass them by, not because they shouted the loudest, but because they trusted the most. When a person chooses silence in moments of pain, betrayal, or uncertainty, it is not a sign that they are lost or broken. Rather, it can be the clearest proof that they trust in a higher wisdom, a greater power, and a perfect plan. Sometimes the most powerful act of faith is not a loud proclamation, but a silent surrender. It is in those quiet, tearful nights when no one sees the inner struggle that the soul whispers to its creator, "You know best." Silence in those moments is not an escape. It is a sacred space where the heart places its burden before the one who never sleeps. When the world fails to understand you, when people accuse you unjustly, when situations spiral out of your control, staying silent is not giving up. It is giving over your pain to the one who sees what no eye sees, who knows what no one else knows. There is a profound strength in choosing silence when your heart wants to scream, when your mind is racing with questions and your soul is wounded. That silence is not emptiness, it is filled with reliance. It is saying, I don't have the answers, but I trust the one who does. Such silence is not passive, it is active submission. It is the spiritual posture of a heart that knows that the divine plan is never random, that there is wisdom hidden in delay, purpose wrapped in pain, and beauty even in the midst of brokenness. This kind of silence becomes a language between you and your Lord, a private dialogue that no one else understands. Sometimes life places you in a position where you are wrongly blamed, your intentions are questioned, or your sincerity is doubted. You want to explain, to defend yourself, to clear the fog, but you realize that your silence is louder than your defense. Because in that silence, you are relying on the most just. You are saying with your stillness what your tongue cannot say. You are telling yourself that your worth is not defined by the noise of people's opinions, but by the quiet assurance in your heart that your Lord is fully aware. And when He is aware, that is enough. When you choose silence, you are not ignoring the situation. You are acknowledging that your voice is limited, but the power of the divine is unlimited. You are allowing the unseen to work on your behalf. You are stepping back so that what is written for you can come forward without interference. The silent soul is not disconnected. It is deeply connected. It is rooted in faith, in patience, in resilience. It understands that what is delayed is not denied. And what is silent now will one day speak in ways beyond imagination. In silence, the heart waits. It waits for justice. It waits for healing. It waits for the opening that only its creator can bring. This is not the silence of despair, but of calm anticipation. It is knowing that even when everything feels uncertain, even when the pain is raw and the answers are far away, there is a divine listener who hears the cries that are never spoken. And with that knowledge, the soul rests silently, not because it has no hope, but because its hope is anchored in the one who never fails. In life, there are countless moments where a single word, spoken without thought, can create irreversible damage. Relationships have been destroyed, trust has been shattered, and peace has been lost. All because someone chose to speak when silence would have been far more powerful. The truth is, silence protects. It shields you from regret. It guards your dignity. It ensures that you do not say something in haste that you will spend years trying to undo. When a person understands the value of silence, especially during moments of anger, frustration, or confusion, they begin to master the art of self-restraint. This restraint is not just a personality trait, it is a deeply spiritual discipline that leads to a life of fewer regrets and more inner peace. When you remain silent while being provoked, you are not showing weakness. On the contrary, you are demonstrating an unshakable control over yourself. Anyone can respond with harsh words, anyone can retaliate, but it takes a person of depth and maturity to stay composed, to swallow their pride, and to let their silence speak louder than any argument. There are many battles in life that are not worth fighting. Silence becomes your strategy. It becomes your shield. You allow others to say what they want, but you do not lower yourself to their level. This is not about being passive or avoiding confrontation. It's about choosing your battles wisely. It's about knowing that not every opinion deserves a response and not every insult requires a defense. The person who remains silent when insulted has already won. Their silence shows they are above the noise. They don't need to justify themselves because they are content with their truth. And often, in those moments of silence, the aggressor ends up exposing themselves. The louder someone tries to defame you, the more they reveal their own character. But your silence, it reveals yours. It shows strength, patience, and wisdom. People may misinterpret your silence. They may think you're weak, that you have nothing to say. But in reality, silence is often the loudest voice in the room. It speaks with dignity, it demands respect, it holds weight. The person who can remain silent while being misunderstood has a heart that is not desperate for approval, but firmly anchored in truth. In silence, you are not only protecting your relationships with others, you are also protecting your relationship with yourself. Every time you choose not to react, not to shout back, not to speak words you don't truly mean, you are preserving your peace. You are guarding your emotional energy. You are choosing stillness over chaos. And in that stillness, you begin to hear clarity. You begin to recognize what truly matters. Many people speak to be heard, to feel important, to assert their worth. But the one who is confident in their value does not need to speak loudly. They know the truth does not need to shout. It stands firm on its own. Moreover, silence is a barrier between you and future regret. How many times do people say something in anger only to later wish they could take it back? Apologies can be made, forgiveness can be requested, but the sting of those words lingers. Silence, however, leaves no wounds. It leaves no scars. It gives you space to think, to process, to approach the situation later with wisdom and grace. When you practice silence, you are training yourself to rise above your impulses. You are training yourself to be thoughtful, deliberate, and compassionate. Silence also commands respect. People notice when you choose not to respond in a heated situation. They may not say it, but deep down, they admire it. They recognize that you are different, that you are not controlled by your emotions. You are not reactive, you are reflective. And in that reflection lies your power. The person who reacts instantly may win the moment, but the person who stays silent often wins the outcome. Silence allows you to remain composed when everything around you is chaotic. It gives you control over your actions, your words, and your future. And in that control lies freedom. When a person chooses to remain silent in moments where they could easily respond, retaliate, or defend themselves, they are doing something that transcends human impulse. It is not an easy thing to stay quiet when you know you've been wronged, when lies have been spoken about you, when your character is being questioned. It takes immense inner strength and spiritual depth to remain composed while the heart is burning with emotion. Yet, it is exactly in these moments that silence becomes an act of worship, an unspoken prayer, a signal to the heavens that you are placing your trust not in your words, but in the justice of the one who hears and sees all. This kind of silence is not passive. It is charged with faith. It is a form of patience that is more powerful than words, more dignified than anger, and more productive than argument. There is something incredibly powerful about staying silent and waiting for divine intervention. It is a declaration that says, I know my words won't fix this, but my silence will invite the help of the one who can. Sometimes the help you seek does not come through confrontation, but through complete surrender. When you stop fighting to be heard and instead turn your focus inward toward the one who never misjudges you, you begin to experience a peace that no argument could ever bring. Your silence becomes your shield, and your patience becomes your weapon. It is through this silence that you create space for unseen forces to move in your favor, for the heavens to respond in ways that you never imagined. Every trial, every insult, every injustice is a test, not only of your emotions, but of your belief. Do you believe that justice comes from people? Or do you believe that the one who created you has written everything with perfect knowledge and wisdom? When you are silent, you are saying with your actions, I trust the process, I trust the timing, I trust the author of my story. This kind of silence is not defeat, it is dignity. It is the calm confidence that what is meant for you will reach you, even if the entire world tries to block it. It is the unshakable belief that truth does not need to be shouted. It only needs to be witnessed by the one who is never unaware. People may look at your silence and think you are weak. They may assume you have nothing to say, that you are too scared to speak, or that you are avoiding the issue. But they cannot see the battle happening within you, the spiritual resistance you are practicing, the reward you are hoping for. They do not see that every second of silence is being recorded. Every moment of restraint is being rewarded. Every tear held back is being counted. You are not being ignored. You are being watched by the most just, and your silence is a witness. Divine intervention often comes when you least expect it, not when you fight back, not when you speak the loudest, but when you let go and allow your silence to rise like incense to the skies. Some of the most beautiful victories in life are not won through argument or confrontation, but through silence and trust. When you hold back your response and swallow your pride, you are telling your Lord that you are relying on Him more than yourself. And when He sees that reliance, He opens doors you never knew existed. He sends ease in the most unexpected ways. He replaces your sorrow with joy, your anxiety with peace, your loss with something far better, all because you chose to wait silently, patiently, and faithfully. There is deep strength in knowing that you do not have to fight every battle, defend every accusation, or respond to every falsehood. Some things are better left in silence, handed over to the one who sees the unseen, who knows what is hidden in every heart, and who never allows oppression to go unnoticed. Your silence is not unnoticed either. It is cherished, honored, and rewarded in ways far beyond what this world can offer. Silence is not just the absence of noise. It is the presence of depth, clarity, and understanding. In the stillness of silence, the soul begins to hear what the noise of the world has long drowned out. When a person learns to be silent, especially in solitude, they allow their heart to awaken to insights that cannot be discovered through constant speech or distraction. Silence gives you the space to reflect, not just on your actions or your emotions, but on your direction in life, your connection with your Creator, and the deeper meanings behind the events you experience. In a world obsessed with productivity, opinions, and endless conversations, silence becomes an act of rebellion against superficiality and a return to inner truth. Many people fear silence because it confronts them with themselves. It strips away distractions and forces them to face their thoughts, their wounds, and their realities. But this confrontation is necessary for growth. When you are silent, your mind clears and your heart begins to speak. You start to notice things you previously overlooked: your intentions, your patterns, your flaws, and your strengths. You begin to hear your conscience louder, feel your intuition more clearly, and connect with a voice that has always been within you but was buried under noise. Silence becomes a mirror, showing you not just who you appear to be to others, but who you truly are inside. This kind of deep reflection that silence provides is the beginning of wisdom. It gives you the ability to step back and evaluate situations without emotional interference. It allows you to understand not just what happened, but why it happened, what lessons it carries, and how it shapes your path forward. In silence, you are not reacting to life, you are understanding it. And with understanding comes clarity, and with clarity comes peace. You begin to realize that many of the things you once fought for, argued about, or stressed over were not worth the energy. Silence teaches you perspective, and perspective brings balance. The one who regularly retreats into silence learns to think before they speak, to respond instead of react, to choose words with care and intention. They don't feel the need to fill every silence with speech or to express every thought that comes to mind. They develop the strength to hold back words that may harm, and the wisdom to only speak when their words bring benefit. Such a person becomes someone others trust, not because they speak often, but because when they do speak, their words carry weight. Their speech is the fruit of contemplation, not impulse. It is rich with meaning because it is rooted in stillness. Moreover, silence helps you reconnect with your spiritual self. In the stillness, you can speak to your Creator without the interference of the world. You begin to listen for signs, for subtle nudges, for the quiet comfort that comes from divine communication. Prayer becomes more sincere. Reflection becomes more fruitful. You start to see your place in the universe not as someone constantly trying to control everything, but as someone who is guided, supported, and watched over. In silence, you begin to trust that not everything needs a plan, a justification, or a response. Sometimes you just need to be still and let what is written unfold. Through silence, you become more aware of the beauty around you. The simple things, nature, sunlight, a kind gesture, begin to touch you more deeply because you are no longer distracted by the noise. You begin to notice the intricacies of life, the subtle wisdom hidden in everyday moments. You start appreciating peace more, seeking depth more, choosing calm more. Your energy shifts from being externally scattered to internally grounded. You begin to walk through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that clarity is not always found in words, but often in silence. There are times in life when silence is not only the most peaceful response, but also the most victorious strategy. Remaining silent during conflict does not mean you are surrendering your rights or allowing others to walk over you. Rather, it is a mark of someone who understands that not every battle is theirs to fight. There are moments when arguing back, trying to prove a point, or defending your name will only create more noise and confusion. Silence, on the other hand, allows the truth to unfold in its own time. It creates a space where emotions settle, tempers cool, and reality becomes clear without you having to say a single word. The one who remains calm and silent often ends up watching those who attack them expose their own faults. Life has a way of revealing everything in due time, and silence gives space for that revelation to happen. In many situations, speaking during conflict escalates the issue. Words spoken in anger become weapons, and once they are unleashed, they cannot be taken back. You may win the argument, but lose peace, relationships, or even your own self-respect in the process. Silence allows you to preserve what matters most. It gives you time to think, to reflect, and to assess whether the issue is even worth your energy. Most of the time, what angers us in the moment loses its weight with time. What felt urgent to correct or respond to often turns out to be irrelevant later. Silence prevents you from making emotional decisions that you may later regret. It gives you control, not over the other person, but over yourself, and that is where true power lies. The silent person in a conflict often holds the highest ground. They are not reactive, they are not easily provoked, and they are not seeking validation from others. They are deeply aware that justice is not always immediate, but it is always assured. Their silence is not a form of avoidance, but of reliance. They understand that time will reveal what is hidden and that no falsehood can last forever. When you choose to remain silent in the face of lies, you are placing your trust in something greater than human approval. You are trusting that the truth is stronger than any false accusation, and that the one who sees all will never let sincerity go to waste. People may look at your silence and misunderstand it. They may think you defeated or unable to defend yourself. But what they fail to realize is that the silent person is watching everything with a clear mind. They are not caught in the storm of emotions. They are grounded, composed, and connected to a deeper sense of purpose. They know that responding to negativity with negativity only creates more darkness, but responding with silence can be a light that eventually exposes everything. That light may not come immediately, but when it does, it shines with clarity and cannot be denied. In silence, you protect your dignity. You are not dragged into the mud of pointless arguments or drawn into the chaos of others' emotions. You stand with grace even if the situation is unfair. You carry yourself with restraint even when you know you are right. And because of this, your silence becomes a testimony of strength, of patience, of wisdom. It speaks volumes about who you are, and it earns the respect of those who observe you carefully. People remember how you handled conflict. They remember whether you shouted, accused, and lost control, or whether you stayed calm, dignified, and silent. Silence during conflict also opens the door for divine intervention. While others are busy talking, planning, or accusing, your silence allows you to turn inward and upward. It gives you the chance to seek help from the one who controls hearts, changes circumstances, and brings out truth from the deepest darkness. Your silence becomes your dawah. Your silence becomes your strength. And while the world watches the noise, the heavens respond to the stillness. You may not fight the battle with your words, but you win it with your trust, with your patience, and with your calm surrender.